Gilbert to the Titans. We got Chad Ochocinco getting a little verklempt, watching Davante Adams route running. A little bit of a turnaround for Chad. And Carly Lloyd wants the kick in the NFL. Oren Burks partial pec tear. We're going to be talking all about that as it is officially once again game day for the Green Bay Packers. Packers tonight taking on the Chiefs in the final preseason game of the year, and then it's on to September 5th. We are rolling into game day week. After the game tonight, of course, decisions to be made. We'll be going through a few of the roster spots. I'm not going to be going through predictions now because we still have the fourth preseason game to play, but I will be talking through a few folks that I'm going to have my eye on. So if you're watching on Patreon through Get Vocal, feel free to jump on, message me there. This is a simulcast show today. We've got Facebook, we've got YouTube, we've got Instagram as well, as long as I go ahead and tell it to go live. And we're going to be trying this, but this will be the last simulcast of the year for Thursday. I am going to be doing a simulcast show during the week, at least one, to get the coverage that we need. But our patrons, if you're one of my patrons, this will be exclusive to you from now on, and we will be making an MP3 podcast of the show, although today's may not be as valuable as an MP3 because it is game day. We're going to be talking about a game that will then have already happened. Lee is here. Good morning. Say hi to a few people, hopefully on Facebook as well. Reggie Gilbert to the Titans for a 7th rounder. So that puts a little draft stock in Brian Gutekunst's pocket once again. And again, if guys like Ty Summers and Kadar Holman turn out, we'll find out. We will be learning, if that's the case, that Brian Gutekunst could pick up some talented folks later in drafts, and that would be a real boon for this Packers team we're trying to make up for some second rounders, right? We're trying to make up for first rounders. That's why Deshaun Kaiser is in the building. And let me just check out my notification here so I can follow that as well with the sound off. Good to have Instagram as well. Wave at a few people. This will be our final simulcast. I will be doing Instagram, IGTV live show as well during the week. So with all those announcements aside, Gilbert was a guy who was a preseason stud for a couple of years. But you had to see the writing on the wall. The Packers bring in Zadarius Smith, bring in Preston Smith, and then, of course, drafting Rashawn Gary, number 12 overall. If you're Reggie Gilbert, you kind of know what's up. They've got Kyler Fackrell, 10.5 sacks last year, and the writing, of course, then is on the wall. But I'm glad because we talked about this yesterday while I introduced. McQuaid is here. Good to see you. Kevin, Jim, Royal, a 5th anniversary badge is good to see as well on our Facebook stream. And, this is an off season for Reggie Gilbert that he had to just go, okay, I hope I have a job in this league. Well, yesterday we talked about the fact that Brian Gutekunst had not been getting any draft capital out of these guys. Nothing out of Mike Daniels, nothing out of Josh Jones most recently, and nothing out of Randall Cobb. And as of today, we just talked about it yesterday, he actually went out and got. Now, it's a 7th rounder. It's not going to be much, but you're not going to get much out of Reggie Gilbert. You're getting a team that's going to take a flyer on him, maybe has a need, maybe had an injury. And but I will say this, and if you're on Facebook, you can heart me up, and I'm going to check over to YouTube as well. I have a setup when I do my simulcast to watch YouTube separately so we can have that conversation. But I don't have it logged in properly, so I'm going to have to kind of go back and forth and see who's on YouTube as well. So I'm glad that Reggie Gilbert got a job. He's still going to have a fight on his hands. The Tennessee Titans, maybe there was a little bit of a connection with Matt LaFleur from previous year, and they were able to get a deal done. I'm over talking myself. Layla says, good game day morning, Brady. Good. Go Pack, go. Right back at you. We got Lee on the Get Vocal account here, and talking about now a team that doesn't have Reggie Gilbert. I don't think this is a big surprise. I don't think it's a big hit. Gilbert, though, he did do some good things last year, but he just never, when it was his time to shine, he just never quite got it together. And he needed to do that this year if he wanted to have any chance of making this roster. Kyler Fackrell there. And so while we're at it, excuse me, I brought a glass of water today because yesterday my allergies were making my throat tickle, which is not a good thing when you do what I do. But I do want to talk through the roster a little bit. And I'm going to go to my roster predictions, or the beginning of my roster predictions, because I haven't finished them. I got to wait till after this game, of course. And, but I do want to talk through who I've got my eye on, because, this is an important offseason for Brian Gutekunst. At the quarterback position, there's a lot of discussion about who's going to be the number 2 quarterback. We've talked about this a lot. Yesterday, we polled Packer Nation on the Facebook Live account. And and the far and away the winner was Tim Boyle right now. Deshaun Kaiser has really fallen off the radar of most of Packer Nation, many being, thinking that he just can't play. In fact, we coined a phrase, roster squat, because I just misspoke. Instead of roster spot, I said roster squat. And so we coined an entire phrase based on that. Instagram, you'll like that one. A roster squat is a guy who needs to perform in the preseason and or training camp and doesn't get the job done. In fact, he lays an egg or a turd, worse than that. But Tim Boyle has not done that. He had a rough first quarter, but then moved on a little bit. So there's a little bit on the quarterback position. I'm going to flip back to get vocal. But with Reggie Gilbert in the outside linebacker position, I mean, we know the situation. You got you've got Rashawn Gary, you've got Za'Darius and Preston Smith, you've got Kyler Fackrell. The inside linebacker position is where you're going to be having your eye on Ty Summers in this game. With Bolton hurt, Oren Burks hurt, that inside linebacker position really took a hit. And I did do some research. Those of you that are patrons of mine, that's patreon.com/PackerNation. If you wish to jump on, you saw my breakdown of the pectoral tear and that it generally, in fact, almost always requires surgery. This is a male-only injury thus far. This is the most interesting thing about it to me, is this is an exclusively masculine injury as of right now. Now, I can't believe with all the women powerlifters out there that I know, this is where weightlifting, powerlifting, particularly the bench press, is where these pec tears come in. And it almost always requires surgery. In fact, I found a study, let me see if I can track it down here, that basically said the peak torque returned to 99% of the uninjured side, and work performance returned to 97% for those who underwent surgery. Those who were managed conservatively, which means rehab, therapy instead of surgery, that's only 56%. But here's the thing that we didn't know at the time when I had that discussion, because this clearly indicates that surgery is needed. Well, this was only a partial tear. So this is not a complete tear of the pectoral muscle, which is how Oren Burks has dodged a bullet in this one, and why the Packers think that he could be back. If you're on Facebook, maybe you want to throw a heart up for that one, because I'm pretty excited about that. The fact that he might be back. We need that extra inside linebacker. We need you got to have a guy next to Blake Martinez, number 1. Curtis Bolton was coming on. Oren Burks looked like the number 2. And then we sort of took a major step back and a major hit at that position. But Oren Burks, of course, being the guy that we were hoping better than Martinez perhaps could cover tight ends out of the backfield, or tight ends out of the slot position, et cetera, et cetera. Coming off the line, he showed a little promise in that. But this is the scenario now, is this was only a partial tear. And that is why, and this took, remember, even with the partial tear, it took the doctors quite a while to decide to use the conservative approach rather than surgery with Oren Burks. But again, however they arrived at that conclusion, that is very good news. And the Packers are going to need him down the line. And I think he may play a good role, an important role. I actually, a couple years ago when the Packers were all banged up with injuries and Mike McCarthy was coach, I wrote a cheese humor article on, Mike McCarthy's plan to hide starters on IR was coming along nicely. And this is almost what you see. And if Oren Burks comes back, then you are going to have a guy who is fresh and hopefully can get out there and do some good things for us. In other news, if you have not seen on our Facebook page, Chad Ochocinco on Twitter, and Davante Adams retweeted this. That's Tay Adams 15, at Tay Adams 15, I think is his handle. Chad Ochocinco literally in tears, confessing that Davante Adams sent him some tape of his footwork. Now remember, Chad Ochocinco earlier this past offseason tweeted out that he had figured Davante Adams out, that he's got his steps down, and that he could cover him, and he wouldn't be able to catch a pass over Chad Ochocinco, a guy who's never even played the cornerback position that I know of. And Davante Adams kind of scoffed at that, and we went walking tall on him for that one. Now you see this roll out, and Chad Ochocinco says basically that, and I'm going to quote him here, so don't hate on me. He says that N-word is special. He says that guy is special. He's crying, openly crying, and saying, he sent me some tape. He's doing stuff that nobody else is doing. This is exciting stuff. You add into that an Aaron Jones. We've got a nice wide receiver group that looks like it's going to be successful in general. But Davante Adams is going to lead the show, and he's out there working hard. And again, it's not just Davante Adams, guys. This is the Davante Adams that's going to lead and train our new wide receiver group. Why do you think part of the reason Jake Kumerow is so good? He's watching Davante Adams. Equanimeous St. Brown until he got hurt. MVS. We've got, Trevor Davis out there. Geronimo Allison out there. This could be the surprise wide receiver core of the entire NFL this year. I really do believe that. All right. But Chad Ochocinco, I posted that on the Facebook page, and I think I need to move my computer out of view. I don't like it being in view. I posted it on the Facebook page, and I just said must see. It's an absolute must see. If you haven't seen it, you can see it on facebook.com/Green Bay Packer Nation. That's our site there as well. And if you want to become a supporter, our patrons are here. They generally give more. We average over $5, around $7, I think, a patron. If you want to do that and get this show when it is exclusive, which is coming as of next week, and my Go Deep video blog, you can come here, patreon.com/Packer Nation. If you're on the Facebook page and you want to support us, it's only 99 cents a month. Just click the support button and you'll get a badge with a heart in it. All right. And supporter only content. All right. There's the commercial for the day. But I do want to continue to go through the roster a little bit. There was one other bit of news that we needed to talk about. And I saw this. I went downtown last night and I was planning to do an IGTV live show. Didn't end up doing that, but I did get kind of caught up in this interview with Carly Lloyd. And I forget who she was talking to, but she was talking about her and her husband are seriously considering her trying out to be an NFL kicker. And Facebook, I'm sure, will emoji me your thoughts on that. I think that would be cool. I need to be a little bit of a fanalist because I think if she can kick field goals, she might as well give it a try. It's all going to be performance-based anyway. I don't think gender has anything to do with the kicking position. Now, I will say this. There was on the Twitter feed a little bit of footage, a little bit of tape out there, and you could tell this was a soccer player kicking field goals. Now, she was extremely accurate, but her delivery was way too slow, way too many steps. So she would need to be coached up to ever have a chance of kicking in the NFL at this point. And her trajectory was a bit low, and I don't know what yardage she was at. If she was 50 plus when she was kicking these, that trajectory is going to be down there. But the approach is, in my opinion, all wrong. It's just not going to work in the NFL. Now, does she have a coach? She's got all the money that she needs to get one. And maybe her husband is a coach. I don't know. But it sure looked like to me like it was way too slow of a delivery to be successful in the NFL. So with some work, perhaps, be interesting to see. We've got a kicking competition of our own. That's one position we can talk about. In or out, Mason Crosby, and that's one of the things, all our patrons I'm sure want to know. We want to know, is this going to be a Mason Crosby year or not? Ficken has kicked well. He had the big boomer at family night, which was, in a petri dish, to be honest, and I wasn't as impressed with it. I think it was great for family night. I think it was a cool way to end it before the fireworks and whatnot. But Mason Crosby has done it in real time for a long time when the bullets are flying. And I think that's much more important. To me, Brian Gutekunst has now proven that he does not care. We talked about him as being a pretty stone cold GM. He doesn't care. It's what have you done for me lately? Doesn't care what your name is. Doesn't care what your stats are from the past, how many years you've been around, how many good things you've done for the organization. That does not seem to be enough for Brian Gutekunst. And I think we have to hand it to him. He's playing this up as a business. That's the way he's supposed to do it, is to build the best team. And he has plainly stated that is his goal in free agency, in the draft, and with the roster cuts that are coming up, is to build the best team. Now, to my mind, the money is involved with that. Mason Crosby costs a lot more than Ficken will if they decide to go that route. Ficken, though, with very little experience in this situation, he hasn't kicked in December at Lambeau Field. I personally am for the Packers kind of going with the status quo, going with the known quantity, unless, their special teams coordinator and the coaching staff gets together and says, this Ficken guy is head and shoulders above. He can kick in the 63. He's going to be able to kick 57s in December, which I don't particularly agree with, especially since the example you have has nobody with their hands up in front of him. So I am leaning toward Mason Crosby. I haven't made my roster predictions yet, but that's what I'm going to go with that for right now. But obviously, the point that we're making is tonight, these guys are going to be kicking field goals per chance, and this is the last chance for them to shine. And for Ficken is the guy that I'll have my eye on. If he goes in there and has a really good performance, he could tip the scales for the Packers, in an offseason where they've collected some money from letting Mike Daniels go. They'll get a little bit out of Reggie Gilbert as well. And, Mason Crosby is pretty highly paid. So fullback and running back, you've got to assume, Jones, Williams, probably Williams, but some are going to be calling for Trey Carson now after his performance last week and the way that Williams has been underperforming. He might be a guy that the Packers think they can hide on the practice squad. I don't think so. I think it's going to be Williams. Dexter Williams as the number 3 guy. And of course, we know Danny Vitale in there. And this one is probably the most uninteresting to me. Now, Trey Carson and Dexter Williams is interesting. I think Williams does need to perform, but when he does, he seems to have a little bit more juice, which is one of the terms that's being used quite a bit this offseason. All right. All right, now wide receiver, we've talked about this all off season. We were excited about EQ, MVS, even J'Mon Moore. I wasn't ready to give up on. At this point, I really am ready to give up on J'Mon Moore. But he is a guy tonight that I'm going to have my eye on. I want to see him. What kind of a performance would he have to have? He would have to have a multiple catch, I would say multiple touchdown performance, absolutely dead on to even have a chance. And this is a guy the Packers, I've seen predictions of the Packers hiding him on the practice squad. I want Lazard for sure on the practice squad, and I am not sure that he even makes the team at this point. All right, let's check out YouTube while we're at it. Maybe take a few comments here from Facebook before we go. I see they're rolling up. Robert says Dexter Williams makes the roster. I mean, they just drafted him, but he was a late rounder. Tommy wants to get Kiko Alonso. That's been called for a bit. I am pretty lukewarm about trades right now, but we do know, we've got inside linebacker need. We've got already made a trade with the Reggie Gilbert trade. And let me see if I can get over to my channel. And, this is an offseason with a lot of movement. We've seen basically a major roster churn this offseason with Brian Gutekunst. He's not putting up with anybody that doesn't perform. He's not leaving any stone unturned at this point. And I do expect probably trades to be made. We've already got the 7th rounder for Reggie Gilbert. So, yeah, you would expect he's out there checking into these guys, seeing what it would require to get them. And says it's live now. I'm going to go to YouTube and just check, see if anybody's jumped in. We're building our YouTube channel. Instagram is growing, guys. I'm going to wave at a few more people. It's good to have you guys on. You will get your own show soon. You kind of have to look over my shoulder right now. But we are simulcasting. Patreon here. Get Vocal simulcasting to YouTube Live. We've got Facebook Live. We've got Instagram Live. This is a fun day, guys, and it's game day, y'all. So we're putting in the work. But the wide receiver position, I'm not going to talk about my predictions, but I do want to see, obviously, the Lazard and Shepard competition. Lazard now, I think, hurt himself, and he may not be able to go. I'm not sure what his status is necessarily. Garrett is here. Good to see you. Garrett's been a stalwart of our YouTube stream. It's good to have you, man. Talking about the Packers, talking about the roster cuts that are coming up and what matchups we want, what competitions we're looking at tonight. And I do think if Lazard can't go, I've got, I'll just tip my hat. I've got Shepard getting the nod. I'll just be straight up about it. And I think that's where a lot of people have the roster going. It has become less of a question mark since Equanimeous St. Brown went down. But I've got to say, and I'll say it again, when I watch Trevor Davis out there, this guy could be a serious performer for this team right now. And not just his versatility, but as a wide receiver, which to my mind was really the only thing that was missing from Trevor Davis all along, was let the guy get out on the field and play the wide receiver position. We rarely got a chance to see him do that. But I will be keeping an eye out for him, because as soon as you didn't have Davante Adams, you didn't have Geronimo Allison, Trevor Davis was the number one target and absolutely shown in the third preseason game against the Raiders. And it was a fantastic performance in so many ways. He's the best gunner we've got. He's their kick return. He's our punt return. And then he went out on a jet sweep, 18-yard jet sweep action. Dangerous. He's a weapon right now. And that's not the way that we would have thought we would be describing Trevor Davis at this point. I think for many of us, I think we would have thought of him as a bubble player. Jamon Moore comes back. He could have easily ousted Trevor Davis if the Packers found anybody that could run back kicks. But Trevor Davis, to his credit, has just continued to grow into his own and mature as an NFL football player, not just a wide receiver, but an all-around good football player. Compliments to him. The tight end position, this is another one that I don't see a whole lot. And here's the thing with this one is, you got Jimmy Graham, you got Mercedes Lewis, you got to figure Tanyan, and then, Jay Sternberger's not going anywhere as a third rounder. And I think they're keeping 4. So there, you got my prediction on that one. I don't think that's going to change. And here's the thing. If I was a tight end on the Packers, I would be going like, how can I even show you what I do? Because we use the tight end so infrequently this preseason. So hopefully in practice, Jay Sternberger has shown a little bit of something in the blocking game. That'll be something that he needs to work on without a doubt. And I'm sure he will do that. He talked about how willing he was to do that. And I expect him to develop. I think this is a good situation because he's behind 2 veterans, and then Robert Tanyan can be out there and take up much of the rest of the slack. And Jay Sternberger, kind of like a Rashawn Gary, he's not going to have to go out and be the guy first. He has some time to develop. Garrett's asking me, how's life? Pretty good. I made the announcement yesterday. I was supposed to go visit my motorcycle yesterday because it is running. And I'm going to tie this into the Packers. Don't jump off on me. I wasn't able to get a ride over there. So I didn't get to see that. I want to see this thing run. I've got a CB750 I'm cutting up into a cafe racer, and I'm going to start polling Packer Nation whether I should make it into kind of a retro Packer-themed cafe racer is kind of what I'm leaning toward right now. So I could zip around Green Bay in that thing and be pretty recognizable at that point. Maybe if you flag me down, we could, do a show. How does that sound? I want to cruise around to different cities. We've got everywhere from, we've got viewers from all over the world. And I am strongly considering now that it's running. Of course, the support comes into that. Patreon.com/Packer Nation. If you're on Facebook, clicking the support button, get the badge with the heart in it, supporter-only content. And we are partnering with you guys. That's the big change in life right now, is this is now going to be all my income for these live shows, and my Patreon live show and everything I do on Patreon is directly in coordination and partnering up with fans of myself, fans of the Green Bay Packers. And that's a big change. So the support becomes very important. On Facebook, however, I do want to make this announcement. When we are over 900 videos. When we get to 1,000 videos, 1,000 supporters, I'm giving away $1,000 in the Packer Pro Shop. That counts for all of our patrons as well. In fact, if you're a patron, you get to double up. So just to explain things, when we do the raffle, when we do the random drawing for those gift certificates, patrons will get 2 entries, up to 2 entries. Facebook supporters will get 1 entry each. If you are a patron and a Facebook supporter, you can enter 3 times. So it's every bit of membership has its certain particular set of privileges. And I can't wait for that day. We are 419 as of today. My latest goal on Facebook that I posted is 499. We will be halfway there, and I'm hoping that'll happen real soon. So back to the roster now. I'm going to switch back to Get Vocal for just a second so I can look in the camera and see I can center myself up because it's a little bit weird. Yeah, the tight end situation has been really, I think, kind of non-existent. It's been almost one of those. It's kind of been ho-hum, to be honest. And I'm looking at, obviously Graham, Lewis, Tanya, and Sternberger. And I just don't see anybody. I don't see any change in that right now. Looks like my Facebook feed might be having some trouble now as it is simulcast to several different outlets. And so we go to the offensive line, and this is another important one. I got my eye on Alex Light. I think he could be a really good backup for us. Lucas Patrick is another one that's in there, and Justin McCray, of course, be fighting for spots. Got to keep your eye out on them. I really do like the way that the offensive line, the backups have performed for the most part. David Bakhtiari pulled Aaron Rodgers aside during practice last week and said, hey, we look pretty good. That's encouraging. Aaron Rodgers is confident in this offense and what it can do and doesn't really feel like he needs these reps in the preseason. That makes me feel better as well. But we are going to be looking at a few guys that are going to be have to be offloaded, depending on how many offensive linemen you think the Packers will keep. And then moving on to defensive line. And again, these decisions up front, and I had a comment on my Facebook page yesterday, September 5th is going to be a game that's won in the trenches, and I think that could absolutely be the case. We're going to have to protect Aaron Rodgers against the likes of Khalil Mack. Aaron Jones is going to have to come up against the likes of Roquan Smith, and Aaron Rodgers is going to have to throw over the likes of the dreaded matchup against HaHa Clinton Dix. 5 touchdowns over HaHa. All right. So the defensive line will be very important. Do you think they keep 5? Do you think they keep 6? Who do you think they can hide on the practice squad? Of course, we offloaded Daniels. And Montravius Adams stepping up has been in the news. I hope he continues to do so. Lowry is in. And Kingsley Keke, I think, as well. But, you're going to be watching Kingsley Keke. You're going to watch Looney out there. And I think Fadal Brown is one as a bubble player right now that's really would have to shine. And I believe the reports are this year that he has not really done that thus far. And, of course, you've got Olivier Sangapalu from the Wisconsin Badgers, who I am pulling for to at least make the practice squad. And we'll see if that happens. I don't know if it will, but he's 330 pounds and can do a standing backflip. I don't know. There's some athleticism there. Comes out of Wisconsin. He comes out of a big program, comes out of a good program. So hopefully that's all right. We talked about edge a little bit. And again, that's one that with now, Reggie Gilbert at least got a job somewhere, and I feel good about that. But I feel pretty good about where our offensive outside linebacker group is at. Much better than I expected when we offloaded, Clay Matthews, which was expected, Nick Perry, which was expected, but it left us in an offseason with draft capital, but not enough to fill up both of those roles. Now, the bringing on the free agent acquisition of Za'Darius and Preston Smith changed that dramatically. Then the Packers had the freedom to go out at 12 and get whoever they wanted, and they really wanted Rashawn Gary, and they got him. So now inside linebacker, Crawford is going to be there. Summers and Crawford are going to be guys to watch. I don't think Crawford's injured. Bolton now being injured, and Oren Burks we talked about a little bit. And I think Instagram just went off on me, unfortunately. My battery must have been dead. I didn't charge it up last night. But that's going to be an interesting one. And Crawford has done some good things. I thought Ty Summers has just been all over the place. The problem has been his tackling. And so he has one more chance, I think. And if he can show that he's solidified his tackling, I think he's as good as in. Cornerback, another interesting one. And I was asked about surprise cuts, and I just have to say, and I don't think this is going to happen, but Tramon Williams is in the back of my mind. I just don't think any of the other guys have performed quite well enough to make that happen, make the Packers pull the trigger on that. So if you got, say, 6 cornerbacks, I think they keep Williams. I think they're going to keep Kadar Holman. Shannon Sullivan had a nice game. I'm going to have my eye on him. He's a guy that really could at least make a bid for to be a practice squad player. And we're happy about where Tony Brown is, and he's got to feel fairly comfortable. He would be a huge surprise if the Packers, cut him. I don't see that happening. And then for safety, do you think Natrell Jamerson makes this squad? I don't know. Packers picked up Adrian Amos in free agency and picked up Darnell Savage as their second pick in the first round of the draft. So they definitely feel high about those guys. This is another one that became, fairly solid. And then what happened is you offload Josh Jones, and now the, final spots could, change a little bit. Will Redmond in there, Ibrahim Campbell, Natrell Jamerson, vying for that spot. And Campbell now with his injury, I think, just don't know how the Packers are going to keep him if they try to, maybe, depending on how severe it is, hide him on the practice squad, thinking that nobody's going to want to pick him up. I don't think he would be much of a risk, to be honest. And we did talk about the kicking competition. Maybe it'll be Carly Lloyd by the time all's said and done. I don't know. I wouldn't have anything against that. I don't know. But Mason Crosby, is he going to be in? I'm very interested in this. And I said this on I believe on one of the podcasts with our Patreon page. This could be pretty much the biggest roster decision that Brian Gutekunst makes. Look at the schedule that we've got, and you choose between the old school stalwart Mason Crosby and Ficken. And if you make the wrong decision, there are going to be games in this season that come down to field goals. On paper, it looks like they could be all over the place. Even if this offense clicks right away, that Bears game, that looks like a defensive struggle. That looks like it could come down to a field goal. You roll out Sam Ficken on September 5th, and boy, is Packer Nation going to be holding its breath. Now, J.K. Scott has looked much better. I really like what I've seen out of him, save for a few. There's always some hiccups. Hunter Bradley has looked good. The chain has looked much better than it did last year. And that's why I think if the Packers are going to pull the trigger, it's going to have as much to do with the development of Bradley and a J.K. as well as a holder, that they feel comfortable moving on from Mason Crosby and going with Ficken and saving some money. And I hope that the idea is not that they're trying to save money, because Brian Gutekunst said he's trying to build the best team. He's making decisions that build the best team. And so hopefully with that, he is able to make that decision. I just think it's going to be a huge one, and I have not heard one person talk about how important it could be with a brand new offense for Brian Gutekunst to make the right choice at the kicking position right now. All right, folks. Well, that is going to do it for me today. We had a lot of interesting news. We're going to have It's Game Day evening, guys. I will be going live again later. As you know, we will be finalizing. The Packers are finalizing their roster, making final tweaks, trades, perhaps. We will be talking about all of that. I will be live on Facebook at halftime. Please join in me on that one. And we will be solidifying, from my part, because the season is here, we will be solidifying the editorial calendar, the live shows, which ones will be simulcast, where the Patreon Get Vocal live show is going to be. I may put that in a more premier spot. I may even make it a night show. I'm working my way back to 5 days a week. Your support certainly helps. I was asked the question, how can we support more than the 99 cents on Facebook? And this is it right here on Patreon, patreon.com/Packer Nation. And you'll get my Go Deep video blog there, which is also a podcast. You get my Get Vocal live show that you've just observed, which will also be turned into an MP3 podcast as well, if you want to pick it up again later on. Guys, I hope you have a fantastic Thursday. Game night. Tomorrow's Friday, rolling into a weekend. And this weekend is the absolute end of the wait, because next week is Packers regular season football. I can't wait. Let's get juiced, folks. Have a great day. We'll talk to you again soon. Go Pack.